Hi there. This is a very impromptu video that I basically just had the idea for based off a post that I did last October for you guys. I do have Maggie right here on my lap. So, sorry, I didn't mean to wake you guys. But yeah, I wanted to actually do a video version of this so that I can scale it for you guys. What are you doing? Scale it for you guys. What I'm going to do is give you some recs for Halloween reads or October reads where you might want to read something a little outside your comfort zone, like where you don't usually read suspense or thrillers or anything like that. Then this might be the month that you actually get like an urge to. And so for that reason, some people don't want to go too crazy and dive into like serial killers and murderers because that's just not everyone's thing. I am actually going to tier it from tier 1 to tier 3. So tier 1 would be like just kind of a taste of an October read, maybe something a little suspenseful, a little crazy, but nothing insane, not much gore or violence, and if there is, then it's just alluded to and not actually described, very much at least. Level 2 would be that in the middle spot where you're getting the subject matter and a little bit more gore than level 1, but nothing as crazy or vulgar as level 3. Where, let me just say though, anything in my tier 3 is not even that bad. I personally can't handle it. I will tell you the one where I do think you should be wary. There's actually 2 that maybe you'd want to be wary even for level 3. But for the most part, even though I enjoy thriller, suspense, all that stuff, I don't really love too much gore, blood, or violent, disgusting subject matter. So, I just like the subject in general, but not necessarily everything else that comes along with it, like in a classic Stephen King horror kind of thing. So, you won't find that on this list. However, I do intend on reading one myself this year. So, anyway, let's get started. I will tell you a little bit about each book and why it kind of made the list. So, we're going to start with level 1, which is basically like beginner thrillers. And there are some young adult in here, as well as, oh, bye Maggie, as well as some adult. So, in level 1, the first one that I have here is actually a trilogy. It's up there. I'm not going to get it though. And that is the Mara Dyer trilogy. So you start with the Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, and then it's Evolution, and then Retribution. They are all 3 out now. I do believe it will be a while before the third one is in paperback, but the other 2 are available in paperback. I have read the first 2 via print, and the third one I did a print audio combo, and the audio is fantastic. It is all the same narrator for all 3. So if you did want to maybe do that via audio, I would definitely recommend it. The narrator was great. The reason it's on this sorry. The reason it's on the list is basically it kind of deals with someone who is psychotic to the naked eye, but not to herself. And that's definitely the start of many thriller movies, and it kind of elaborates from there. There are scenes in a mental ward and things like that. There are very kind of creepy elements to the book, but they do not overwhelm the plotline, I don't think. The characters are really great in this novel, all 3 actually, and there's just there's so many moments where you just don't know what on earth is going to happen next. And I really, 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 truly love this series. And I definitely think if you have not started it, you should. And if you have started it and been hesitant to finish, I definitely think that you should. So that's, again, still level 1. There's nothing too crazy in these books, I promise. That is young adult, and that is Michelle Hodkin. The second one is Elizabeth Little's Dear Daughter. And that is one that I actually read just this year. And it is an adult suspense novel. It actually it's not funny by any means, I guess. But the way that they do the story is funny. It is about someone who is accused of killing someone else, and she kind of has to deal with that life. And the way that it's done is very creative, and there's not too much, like, horror stuff at all in this one. It's more just a really great story, and they actually find a way to add some humor into it, and yet the whole time there is a very large element of suspense. It's not a thriller, it's just suspense. It's definitely a level 1, and it was very enjoyable. So I would definitely recommend that for a beginner adult thriller for sure. And then next we have The Likeness, basically, or Anything Else by Tana French. This is part of the Double Murder Squad series, and it was the 3rd installment, I believe. It is actually the first one that I read, like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, something like that. And I'm going to be honest, it is my least favorite of all the ones I have read. However, I still definitely enjoyed it. It did get a B rating, I think, from me. I think that's what I got. I put that one specifically because I felt it had that mysterious element to it. It's about a detective named Cassie. I know, how cool, right? And she is assigned on a case where she has to go undercover, and she's dealing with a group of friends who are not aware that their friend is missing, basically. And this detective, Cassie, happens to look exactly like the girl who is missing. So she kind of goes in to play her, which is really kind of weird and creepy, just saying. And it kind of actually creeps her out too. But there you get to see inside all these characters, all 3, I think it's 3 of her roommates, it's been a while, 3 or 4 of her roommates, and how twisted everything that goes on in this house is. Again, you are in Ireland for this one. Tana French has such a great style of writing. She takes you along on her investigations. Clearly, in this one, it's very easy for her to, because her detective is actually involved in the investigation in the actual setting where it's all occurring. So this one was really great. And looking back on it, I think I enjoy it more talking about it even than I did when I read it. I wasn't, fully immersed in Tana's style at the time, and now every single one I've read of hers I've loved. So I would recommend this one. It was actually a good starting point, even though it's not the first book. But my personal favorite is Faithful Place, which is the next book, book 4. But I also loved the most recent one, which was The Secret Place. And basically they're all really, really good, and you should definitely try them. They are still a level 1. You're not getting anything. If there's something that's very violent or vulgar, she's glazing over it. There's nothing crazy. But they are fantastic. I love Tana French. She's one of my top 10 favorite authors. So that definitely gets a spot there. The next one is The Devil You Know by Trish Dollar. What are you eating? And it is it's a contemporary thriller. That's what I'm going to go with. I can't describe it any other way. I think that's the best way to do it. And I really can't say much about this one because I don't want to give anything away, because it's kind of best to go into it not knowing anything, but trusting me that it's not going to, disturb you because of violence or anything like that. There's a few moments where you definitely get that true thriller element, which is really impressive for Trish Dollar because she's so contemporary before this. But I did enjoy seeing another side of her writing, and I would definitely give this one a go if you are on the verge of wanting to try something like this. This is a very common thing that I've seen in the past year or two with a contemporary thriller style, which is really a great thing to get a new audience involved in a thriller without freaking them out too much. So I would definitely give that one a go. A lot of people really, really love this one. And I found people who really, really loved it are not typical thriller readers. So take that under advisement. Okay, level 2 time. Ready? It is going to be Revival by Stephen King. I did say it would not include classic horror by Stephen King, but this one is not. I have not read any of those, like I did mention earlier. However, people have said that this was kind of him going back to his roots. I wouldn't know if that was true or not. This did not disturb me in the way that I thought it would. I will say that outright. However, it did disturb me a little bit because of the subject matter only, not because of the violence or the blood or anything like that at all. It was a very, very good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is the story of Jamie. It is a 30 years, basically his whole life. And it's a story of what he's gone through and what he's seen and why he is the way he is and his whole thing with religion. And it's very interesting. That's all I can say. Again, this is another one where I can't say that much, but I did love the main character wholeheartedly. So many sides to this character, so many sides to a lot of the characters in this novel, even though some of them will creep you out a little bit. It was really, really fantastic, and definitely that level 2, just because Stephen King's writing in itself is a little creepy sometimes, and just the things he can put in your head without actually saying too much, which is real talent, by the way. Sorry if this is shaking. As you can see, my dog is laying on me. So that's level 2 revival Stephen King. Also, I did not write this one down, but I'm going to mention it real quick. Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. I did read that one when it first came out last year, and that one is suspense. It is not a thriller. It is suspense. There is a difference to me. That's a whole different video. But it was very good. And it's basically just kind of like a whodunit kind of thing. So if you're looking for more of that, then maybe check out Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. It is available in paperback now. It's not only in hardcover, so if that helps, go for it. And there is a sequel to that one too, Finders Keepers, that just came out recently. So if you're in the mood for more than one, there you go. Okay, next on that list is going to be level 2 as well. Obviously, it is young adult though. It's another little piece by, I don't want to butcher her name, Kate Carius Quinn. I believe that's how you say it. This one, I actually toyed with putting it at level 3, but then I realized, I thought about it, and it is 2. It's just that this book, you can't even imagine the things it's like parts out of people's bodies, people exchanging body parts, but in the middle of the woods, and people becoming other people, and people following people. I can't even explain this one. I cannot do it justice. It was fantastic. It was unlike anything to this date I've ever read, and I actually had the chance to interview Kate a few years ago now, I guess. And I read this one on the beach. Probably not the best thing I ever did because it was creepy, but it was just so good, and it was just unexpected. Like, again, a very WTF kind of book. What are you doing? Stop it. So I cannot. This one again. I don't even think I read the back when I read the book. My friend had recommended it to me, and I just read it. So if you want to read the Goodreads summary, I will link to that below. However, I'm not going to say anything else about it. So that one you'll just have to trust me. It would be not for beginner and not for crazy, but definitely if you have balls, read this one. That's all I'll say. So that's young adult Kate Carius Quinn, another little piece. Then we have Night Film. This one is a chunker. It's like over 600 pages. It's somewhere, again, up there. And it's by Marisha Pessl. I believe that's how you say it. It came out a few years back. I will say that if you're going to read this one, you should get the print book. Do not get the ebook or the audio version. And that's unlike me to say. However, this was said to me when I bought it. And there's a lot of media inside the book. So you actually do want to see that, like newspaper articles, social media stuff, websites, like it's all incorporated into the story, and it does actually matter. So I would definitely say get the print copy. But Night Film was basically the story of a filmmaker who I can't even explain it. His daughter basically goes missing, and then a journalist tries to track the story. And basically that's all I can tell you. But it was very, very, very interesting. A very fast read. I think I read that 600 pages in under 2 days. So if that's anything, it should. A lot of people really like this one back when it came out. I actually am still waiting on something else from this author, because I would definitely read something else by her, and I really, really love this one. So Night Film is definitely a level 2, because towards the end it gets a little creepy. There's actually some witchcraft mentioned at some point, and definitely a Halloween read, I will tell you that. So keep that one on your list. Next, also at level 2 is The Weight of Blood, and that's a adult thriller. This one is a very quiet novel. However, it definitely packs a punch. That's what I'll say. It's... What are you doing? It is very well written. I love the writing in this book. It basically... Here's what I'll say. If you ever want to go to a town where you think that you could be left for dead and no one would ever know, and you want to read about that, read this book, okay? Because it may have happened there. I'm just saying. So that one was definitely very good, very interesting, and somehow she... Laura McBride's wrote this? I think so. Somehow does the whole thing very quietly. It's very quiet, understated. So, very interesting. There is a little bit of blood and gore in this one, but not too much. That's why it is on level 2. Then we have level 2 again, Blackeyed Susans. This is one that I just recently read because it just recently came out. When I heard about this, I had to have it, kind of a deal. It's basically, how to explain... Well, number one, Blackeyed Susans is the flower, and that is what they are referring to. There was a time years ago when 4 girls, I believe it was 3 or 4 girls, were found buried, and one of them was still alive and couldn't remember anything. Like, she kind of blocked out everything at that point, couldn't talk after the whole thing because of the trauma, and they say that can happen. And she's basically still trying to find her killer, even though her killer is supposedly on death row waiting to be murdered. So, well, killed, sorry. So, basically the whole story is about what did happen that day and why she doesn't think, maybe, that it's this guy that is on death row, and who she thinks it is, and there's a lot of creepy stuff that goes on throughout the story, where you can see why she would believe that the person who's doing, like, who did this to her is still out, because things are still happening to her, so she obviously doesn't think that, you know, he's doing it from jail. So, it was a really, really great story. Really, really highly recommend this one, and it is a level 2, not too creepy, but a fantastic story. Okay, next, level 3, tier 3, level 3, all the same, right? Is Where They Found Her by Kimberly McCreight, who is the author of Reconstructing Amelia, which I also really liked. This one I absolutely loved. I own the hard copy, the audio copy, and I'll probably get the ebook copy if it's ever on sale because I'm crazy. But it was just so good. And basically, what starts the story off is a baby dies, and that's kind of, that in and of itself is why this book is level 3, just because of the plot of the book. If you cannot deal with that itself, then I totally get that, and there's not really any gruesome details related to that at all, but it still will be mentioned, and there is also a scene in which, not relating to that directly, but just a scene later in the book where perhaps you wouldn't want to be involved with the story if you are skeptical about gore. It is fantastic, I will say that. The missing baby, they have a journalist, again, lots of journalists in thrillers apparently. They have a journalist on the story, who actually herself went through losing a baby. So it's very hard for her to be involved. And then you have another main character point of view kind of thing where her and her mother are living kind of paycheck to paycheck, and she gets kicked out of her house, and she will tie into the story at some point. I will not say when, but she is another main character, and her story is very fascinating, and I really loved it. This book is fantastically done. There's a few different points of view, and you get to really understand why everything has happened. There's a lot of twists and turns, and it was just so enjoyable. Really, really loved it. So Where They Found Her is definitely a very different story. Does have kind of a contemporary feel, but it is definitely a suspense and thriller as well. So that is probably one of, if I had to choose 3 from this list, that would be on the top 3. Okay, next is a whole series. I'm not going to pinpoint a book from it. With this series, I would start from the beginning, and that is Sworn to Silence or Paid for Silence. One of those two. I'm the worst fan ever. It is Linda Castillo. She is like one of my absolute all-time favorite authors. The series is now on its 8th installment, I believe. I read all of those in the past 2 years. Not even, actually. This is an Amish murder series. That is actually the name of the series. And it's about Chief Burkholder. And she gets all these different cases in her Amish town. She actually used to be Amish herself, and so she actually does know the language, so she can speak to these people, and they kind of deal with her a little better than other police officers, because they know that she understands, and she was a part of that community at one time. She did choose to leave, and there are reasons. You will find that out in the book. However, she basically, on her clock, lots of things happen in Painter's Mill, and it's in Ohio, and the author actually had to do a lot of research to get all this stuff right, and she's so great. I love this story. I love every single book is so different, so I can't tell you really anything other than the general point, and it's about Painter's Mill, Ohio, and it's an Amish murder series. There are 8 installments. There are very different plot lines in every single book, and they are all really, really, truly great. So I would definitely give that a go. There is also a side of like romance in there, so if you like that, you'll get it. It is level 3 because some scenes in some of the books, so I'm just going to put it there. Mostly it's not, but there are scenes, so I'm going to put it there because of that. Lastly is The Killer Next Door. This is the one that I would be very cautious of. That's Alex Murdaugh. Let me quite honest, I did not love this because of one of the people involved in the book. I had to skim the scenes. That's how vulgar it is. So this is like, if you are ultimate thriller and this is what you want to read this. This is Alex Murdaugh, The Killer Next Door. Definitely interesting, and it's basically like a hotel kind of thing, but not a hotel. Like, basically, I'd say like more like a motel where they rent out the rooms day to day kind of stuff, and there are people that die, and they want to figure out who is doing it and who's behind everything, and that is what the book is. It is definitely should be on the list because if you enjoy that, you will enjoy the book. However, be prepared. There is one character who is very, very messed up in the head. But yeah, that is actually it. I do not have any level 3 young adult picks. I've never read one. However, I will tell you that this year I do intend on reading Miss Peregrine's Home for the Peculiar Children, that series. So I don't think that would be a level 3 anyway. But it would probably be a level 1 or 2, and it is definitely one that you should look into if you want a young adult thriller. Or not thriller, but somewhat more October readish. That's what we'll go with. So yeah, that is the list, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, get to reading.